Welcome back to the Road to National series. In today's episode, I'm going to take you through an upper workout. So it would normally be an upper dynamic effort workout for me. However, next week where I would normally continue my dynamic effort waves, I do 3-week waves. I'm actually away staying with some family. Now, they do have a home gym, but I'm not going to be able to do my proper dynamic sessions. So instead, I'm just going to be doing some general upper and lower sessions at the end of the week for the next 2 weeks. And then I'll go back to my normal waves. So I decided for this session as my primary movement, I would just build up to 2 singles at 140 kilos. One was close grip, and then the second one here was using a regular grip. So these were a little bit challenging for me. I'm sort of doing similar to a deload week. However, I'm actually pushing hard on all my accessories and going a bit heavier. So the idea was to do some singles there. Also, the logic behind those singles, I was wanting to test out what it would be like to do 2 heavy sessions in a week. So I've had this temptation for a while, instead of to do dynamic efforts, to be doing basically like 2 max efforts and then maybe sort of do dynamics like an accessory. But what I discovered there is I was definitely weaker. Even just on those singles, they were fairly comfortable, but I would say I wouldn't have been able to press more than 145 kilos on the day, and that is way below my normal max. And I've been setting loads of max PRs recently that would indicate my bench is sitting nearer 155, 160. So basically, I got my verdict, which is I should definitely stick with just 1 max session and then a lighter session later in the week. This should be dynamic effort work, but sometimes it's nice just to put your temptations to bed. You get like these ideas with programming. If you followed the series from the beginning, I've changed my programming quite a lot, but it has been fixed for the last like 3-4 months because I definitely think my current program is the best one for me. So moving on to the accessories, my first accessory here was rope tricep extension. So I went at 80 pounds, which is the heaviest I've done before on this exercise. And I got sets of 6 in the standing position, supersetted with like sets of 10 to help burn out the muscle more bent over. Now, the reason I'm way stronger in that bent over position is it's more like a skull crusher. You're moving through less of a range of motion, but the contraction is significantly less. You're sort of just pushing both arms outwards versus on normal rope extensions, you're not just pulling down, you're actually pulling outwards to try and fully contract the triceps, and that outward movement in particular is so challenging. So that is why I was able to get easily sets of 10. If you thought I was like faking it on the first set of 6, that wasn't anywhere near failure, it was. I honestly couldn't get more reps at that. It's just the bent over position is a significantly more advantaged position. So moving on to the next accessory here, I have low rows. So last week on my deload week, I sort of came up with this variation. I'd always just assumed I couldn't really do low rows on this machine. And whilst the cable is coming from a bit higher than you'd like, you can see the cable anchor point's about level with like my chin, my neck. Whereas on a normal low row, it's sort of nearer your belly button or your hips. It's a proper low row. This still felt really good. It felt so good from the deload week that I decided to do it for some proper weight, 200 pounds for 2 sets of 10 there, and that did feel amazing. My back got really pumped up from that, so I was very happy with those and the discovery of that as like a new row variation for me to be able to do in this gym. Then the next accessory here was 30-degree incline dumbbell presses. Now, I had a bit of an issue on these. I originally tried to kick the dumbbells up into place, but I literally couldn't get it up and it sapped a load of energy from me. So I did this setup with like the hooks, the lift-offs, which allowed me to get a set of 4 there on that first set. But I think I was a bit drained from trying to kick the dumbbells up on the first set. Also, I don't really like dropping these hooks. I feel like it's damaging them, and then I don't want the hooks to be compromised so that it drops down on me in future. However, for whatever reason, I literally couldn't kick them up into position, which was very frustrating. This is the heaviest I've gone at a 30-degree incline, but on that second set there, I got a set of 5, which is obviously better than the first set of 4, which normally doesn't happen, but that was because of my setup issues. I think in future I'll stick to going a little bit lighter, but because it's the first week back after my deload week last week, I always try and go heavy on my accessories the first week, and then I sort of move to like mid weights for sets of like 10 to 12 on the second week. The last week, the third week, is more like sets of 15 to 18, and then the deload week can be sets of 20. So That is the logic with reps, and that's why I pushed the weight there. And if I could have just kicked it up into position, I feel like I have the strength for sets of sort of 6 to 8 if I had a smooth transition and smooth lift off. But anyway, it's just a bit of an awkward movement for me to get up into position there, but still managed to get the 2 sets in, and that was the heaviest I've ever gone on them. So the next accessory here was like leaning single arm loo raises. So since I started doing loo raises on the channel, they've become my favorite delt exercise, particularly favorite sort of lateral raise variation. Things like dumbbell presses, overhead presses, I do love as well. However, I used to just do normal lateral raises, then I did the loo raises, which is where you go all the way up into the top position, but I've done them for ages and my strength's sort of plateauing at them. I think it's also because the jumps in my dumbbells, the 5 kilo dumbbells are really easy, the 10 kilo dumbbells are comfortable for me on regular loo raises, the 15 kilo dumbbells are exceptionally challenging. If I had something halfway between that, would be good, but I don't really have space in the gym and I don't want to clutter it with loads of intermediate sort of dumbbells between the 5 kilo increments I've got at the moment. So instead, I just decided to do a heavier, harder, not heavier, but harder variation of the loo raises, which is where you lean over and do them single armed like this. It just makes contracting in the top position a bit harder, and it slightly shifts the tension, and it definitely was harder because I got 2 sets of 10 per arm, but I can normally get sets of 20 with the 10 kilo dumbbells if I'm doing regular double arm loo raises. So these felt good. It's nice to have another variation, and they felt really good. The delt was definitely pumped at the end. My delts are also sore because halfway through the week I went and helped a friend pour some concrete. He's doing an extension on his house, and I did like 100 wheelbarrows of 100 kilos. We moved like 11 tons and I did most of the wheelbarrowing. He had to like spread the concrete out. But it took like an hour and a half. It was a massive test of GPP. I was happy I got through it. But my delts, the site was very bumpy and the wheelbarrow was wanting to tip over all over the place, and just stabilizing that somehow fatigued my delts massively as well. So they were feeling a bit sore before doing those loo raises as well, to be honest. But that's fine. It's just a test of GPP. It's all good and contributing to getting stronger. And I was happy that I actually had the ability to keep going pretty much solidly for a full hour and a half. So moving on to the next accessory here, it was alternating bicep curls. So I went with the 25 kilo dumbbells, and I think I got sets of 8 per arm, 6 per arm, I can't remember. And then I supersetted them with hammer curls, because hammer curls are an easier variation of bicep curls. I think the range of motion on the hammer curl is reduced as well, because the literal head of the dumbbell starts to hit your shoulder. Versus with regular alternating dumbbell curls like I was starting with, I can sort of twist the dumbbell out of position and get a greater range of motion. But these felt great, definitely pumped up the biceps, and again, just trying to drive that intensity by adding those extra reps on the hammer curls at the end there. So that felt good. Then moving on to the last exercise, it would normally be an ab exercise for me. However, last session, if you haven't seen it, I hit my favorite or my most important lower max, which was a 300 kilo 6-inch block pull. I was so happy with that because lockout is normally my weakness on deadlift, but it was a bit of a grind. I used grips just because I didn't want grip to be a factor, and I don't want to have to use chalk every time I get chalk all over the place, and I normally do an alternating grip, but I realized the length of time I was grinding up, my grip was starting to slip even with the strap. So it's probably best for me to develop my grip, and I'm thinking of doing that instead of abs at the end of my upper sessions, just because it's probably a bit more of a pressing matter. Abs are okay, but my brace is pretty strong. I don't think my abs are particularly weak. So I might start doing both, I don't know. But just trying to get some extra grip work in, and I think double overhand axle bar holds are really useful for that. Going to a regular bar after that is super easy. So that is it for today's video. I hope you did in fact enjoy the video. If you did, drop a like, drop a comment, subscribe, click the bell, all that good stuff, and I hope you have a great day.